come in when they're ready. I want to thank everyone for attending this Lunch and Learn. This is, to me, probably one of the most important Lunch and Learns that we do because from planned gifts, the largest gift that you are going to receive, usually from an individual, is through a planned gift. And the thing about planned gifts is they're unlike many other gifts. They don't happen overnight. They take a lot of planning, years often. So this is why this is an important lunch and learn because you have to start planting the seed very early for the fruits to come in later on. And if you don't, I mean, every once in a while, you'll find one that just falls out of the sky, but it's far better to plan and set them up. And so that's why this lunch and learn is of paramount importance. And I'm super excited to welcome Aquanetta Betts to lead this lunch and learn because she has vast experience in planned giving. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read her bio so you'll get a gist of the expert that you're hearing from, and then we'll do an icebreaker, and then we'll go right into the lunch and learn itself. So let me go ahead and read Aquinetta's bio after I take this off the screen, and we can get right into it. Aquanetta Betts has a JD, a CAP, a EAP, and serves on the CRE board as the director of planned giving at George Mason University, and was previously the senior executive director of planned giving at World Vision, which is a massive organization that you know in the Eastern United States. She is the founder and principal consultant at Johnson Betts LLC, where she helps nonprofits grow their planned giving pipeline and partners with professional advisors and charitable individuals on effective giving strategies. She spent over a decade as an estate planning attorney in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, the DMV. I love that area. Um, Aquanetta Betts is a past president of the Chesapeake Plan Giving Council, serves on the board of the Baltimore Estate Planning Council, and holds leadership roles with the National Bar Association Real Property Trust and Estates section in the International Association of Advisors in Philanthropy and the National Association of Charitable Gift Planners. Um, Clearly, we're dealing with someone that knows about planned giving. So I want to welcome Aquanetta Betts to the Lunch and Learn. And is there anything, Aquanetta, that I left out that you want to sort of highlight about your career?
Well, the one thing I will point out, and I did not share this with you, but I like to add it. It kind of adds just a bit of interest.
Please.
I was a flight attendant for American Airlines for 15 years.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, I just throw that in there just to bring a bit more interest in my career path. So I just wanted to add that.
I'm old enough to remember them calling them stewardess. Were they, is that
Yes.
what you were called at the time?
No, no, I came
You're
in a
too
bit
young for
after
that.
that. Yeah, yeah, I missed that part. I
You're too
missed that
young for
part.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's amazing. You
Yeah.
seem too tall for that.
No, actually, I made it. So yeah, I did.
Okay,
I
okay,
made
because I
it.
know there is a height limit, isn't
There
there?
is, there is a
Okay,
height, and both for short and tall. So
oh, okay.
a
I didn't know
minimum
for
and a
sure.
maximum, rather. I put it that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. Okay,
Hmm.
well let's go ahead and jump into the icebreaker. So these are going to be some rapid fire questions, so you can just sort of shoot them off as quickly as you can. So, what is your favorite motivational quote?
I would say it comes from my mother. When you know better, you do better.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Do you still get nervous when you ask for a donation? Do you still help people do that?
I certainly make ask of folks for donations. Do I get nervous? Nervous is, I think, too much of a word. The word is just too lofty. I would say I'm very aware of what I'm doing.
Okay. I say I get excited. That's what I
That's a
say.
good, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I sort of flip it a little bit.
Yes.
And what one book would you recommend everyone read?
You know, I just ordered a book and I haven't read it yet, but it is a book. I want to make sure I bring up the name. The book is called Simple Wisdom, and it's about the story of Osceola McCarty. She was a laundress in Mississippi, and in 1995, she had saved up her money after decades and decades of washing and ironing clothes for folks, and she saved up over $150,000 and left that in a scholarship for students at the University of Southern Mississippi. So I'm about
Oh,
to read
wow.
that book. It's based on her inspirational wisdom and insights. So I'm looking forward to that. It's called Simple Wisdom for Rich Living.
That's great. I love that. Since the passing of Nikki Giovanni, I'm rereading Bicycle.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
need to do
love
that too. That sounds
I,
great.
I
Yes.
love her. What is the best advice you've ever received in one sentence? You almost said it
Wow.
first with your what your mom your mom's quote.
I know you could really repeat that. I would say you're enough.
Oh, I love that too. Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What career would you be in if you weren't a I said speaker and author. I don't know why that's on there. If you're not a plan giving expert, what would you be doing?
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. I really like what I do. So something that would incorporate working with people, kind, generous folks. Whatever that career would look like, I would say I want to be there, which I already am doing that. So
Yeah.
if there's something
So
close to that,
you're living your
I
ikigai. That's
I
good.
am. I'm loving what I'm doing. Yeah.
So Malcolm or Martin?
That's a hard one. And I'm going to say they both have very, very special things, unique things about them. I cannot pick one.
Okay, that's good. So one of my friends who I interviewed, he said Markham, which combined
Yes,
both of them.
exactly. They both have unique strengths and characteristics, and so I think it's hard to select one versus the other. Yeah.
That's cool. If you had if you were able to have dinner with three historical figures, who would they be?
So the three historical figures, they would be folks in my family that would go way, way back to the early 1800s who were born in this country enslaved. I would really love to have conversations with those folks. So great, great, great grandparents, that would
Love
work for
that.
me. Yeah.
Love that. And then the last question I'll ask you is, what advice would you give someone just starting their fundraising journey in one sentence?
Pretty much what I said earlier about that quote, you are enough. I have conversations all the time with folks who feel that perhaps going into this position of fundraising, major gifts and planned gifts, that they don't really feel comfortable. Like they have a bit of imposter syndrome. And so I do my best to get rid of those feelings for them. So you are enough. Again, I'll use that.
I agree. When I first started fundraising, one of the challenge I found it very challenging. And the best advice I received was from my boss and mentor. He said, "You give first. Have you written a check?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I come in on the weekends." He says, "No, until you write a check,
Yeah.
and then right after that, the floodgates open." So
Yes.
I would say
Yes.
lead in the giving, and then
Yep.
it's much easier for you to ask.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will probably touch on something very similar to what you just stated during our conversation. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So let's go ahead and jump in right into the planned giving.
Mhm.
Can you describe your overall goal in helping nonprofits and donors grow their planned giving pipeline?
The overall goal is to help organizations become much more sustainable. We certainly understand keeping the lights on with those current dollars today. We need those current dollars, no doubt about it. I'm not arguing about current dollars. They're wonderful. But the plan gifts, the goal with plan gifts is to help build up that foundation to shore up your finances. And plan gifts will certainly help build up organizations from a financial standpoint. So the goal would be sustainability for organizations.
Can you give any examples of organizations that have done that and done it well? That's small to medium.
Mhm. Yes, and believe it or not, there are some notable organizations, and people sometimes don't really expect them to have had such a robust play and giving program. Claflin College, which is in South Carolina, small HBCU, years ago they had a program where they put together some play and giving program initiatives, and they actually did very well. So in that case, I would say that's probably one that people would not have on their radar. And don't get me wrong, there's still room, obviously, for growth. You
For
can
sure.
always grow your plan giving program. There's always another number or goal to look forward to. I would say the one organization that I'm aware of where they really didn't have things in place for playing gifts. And they had a donor, I'll say one donor in particular, who passed away and left a personal residence as part of their estate gift to this organization. And the organization did not have a clue as to how to make that gift come into their
Oh,
organization, how to get the proceeds from that sale of that house. And the initial thought was, we can't accept this gift. And then after a couple of conversations, we realized there are companies or organizations,
yeah.
other outfits out there that can help you make this gift happen. Your supporter, your donor, your member wants you to have this gift. Here's how you can make it happen. These organizations, oftentimes, especially if they're smaller, feel that they are alone. They're not. Reach out, have conversations, reach out to folks who do this sort of work. Just keep asking around. So I would say that one particular organization, they were just about to lose probably, I want to say, over $500,000 in that instance.
Mhm.
But we were able to, after many, many conversations, to make that gift happen.
That's great. That's fantastic. And going off script a little bit, can you talk about and I don't want to steal your thunder, but can you talk about how Black churches are in a prime position to receive planned gifts and just don't even know it?
Yeah, and so here I'm going to go to where we are today. We're looking at faith-based organizations, giving. We've seen some reports saying the decline in attendance or membership. We still have in these organizations really a core group of supporters that we will continue to have. These folks are your volunteers. They support your organizations. We're not making the ask of them. We're not putting the information in front of them. So you have in these churches, you have people that want to give. Oftentimes they're just not aware. I like to call them, they're not aware of their opportunities for giving or their options for giving. Think of it as a menu of sorts. And we talked about this a bit earlier.
Mm.
What are some of the ways that people can give? Certainly cash gifts are wonderful, but there are other items and other things that can be gifted as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But churches are certainly in a position to inform their supporters. And that's going to be a key word you're going to hear throughout this: information. Churches inform their members about many different things. The churches have a lot of trust. The members trust these churches. If you're not providing them with this information, where are they going to get it from? Think about it for a second. Oftentimes they just don't know how to give. So churches are in that unique position. They have the supportive members. Now it comes to the point where we have to inform and educate. And that is a task, a duty, a charge that many churches have. So I will expound on that a little bit later.
Great, great. That's good because I just feel like, working at hospitals, universities, these very large organizations, the Heart Association, and I often would think, if when I was working at these large institutions, if we had the visibility that churches have with
Right,
their donors. I mean, do
right.
you know how much money the University of Southern California would be bringing in if their donors came to them every Sunday? I
Exactly.
mean, it would. So
Yes.
churches are just in this
Yep.
position
They
that
they
other
are.
nonprofits would die for. And
Exactly.
so that's why I just feel like this particular lunch and learn to get in front of these
Yes.
Black ministries to get them start thinking about this. And it's again, it's a seed that you plant that fruits
Yeah.
later. But I'm telling you, when it starts fruiting, you're
Yes.
like,
Yes.
because I'm reminded of in Los Angeles, I knew the executive director of the Braille Institute. And when they first started, they were, hand to mouth, but they
Mhm.
started very early on planned gifts. They exist now almost primarily on planned gifts. They don't, some years they don't even have to raise any money because of the work that they did
Yes.
very early on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Planned gifts are gifts that most people will be able to make. When we talk about major gifts, whatever that dollar amount is at some organizations, it could be a $10,000, 25,000, 50,000, whatever a major gift looks like. Not everyone will be able to do that during
Correct.
their lifetime. That's just a fact. However, Paul, think about a planned gift. Think about a legacy gift through someone's will, through a trust, or here's something that's even more simple. How about a beneficiary designation of a
Yeah.
life insurance policy, a
Yeah.
retirement account? And I'm not saying don't take care of your family through those things. I'm not saying that at all. What about 10%
Hmm.
of your retirement account going to your church? You're still making a gift, a sizable gift in most cases, and you can still take care of your family, which we want you to do. So just about everyone has the ability to do a planned gift of some sort. We'll talk about estate planning. That is my
Right.
first love professionally, and it's critical to what we're talking about. I don't see how you can really have one without the other. And
I
especially when you
agree.
talk about churches informing folks, there's another whole fallout when there's a lack of an estate plan when it comes to churches.
Agreed.
So the plan gift is a part of that estate plan, but there's another piece of that that churches deal with, and it can be disastrous.
I agree.
It
I agree
oftentimes is.
100%.
Yeah. So estate planning is critical. We'll talk about that. How do we get churches involved to help inform? You're going to hear me say inform. It's critical that churches get involved in informing their members and their supporters. There's a lot of work to do, but it really is a win-win for all, for the churches, for the members, the growth, the sustainability of these organizations for generations to come. We have to start. We have to start now.
Agreed. And so, what are the essential strategies a nonprofit should focus on when developing their planned giving?
The simple strategy, I would say first, compliance, whatever compliance looks like, or whatever that means for your organization, whether it is your nonprofit status, a 501(c)(3, if not, what do you need? Before we go out and really start working on these planned gifts, making a strategy for it, I want you to take a look at what you need. Contact an attorney, your business attorney, whoever is helping you out professionally as an advisor. You need to get that core group to surround you and make sure you are in compliance. That would be my first thought. And then I'm going to say this also as a disclaimer. Whatever I'm saying here is informational only. I'm not giving any tax, legal, or accounting financial advice. Want to put that out there. Your particular situation with your organization is unique, each one. Um, get your compliance issues in order. We want people to be able to trust our organizations. If I'm going to leave a legacy gift, I want to feel good about the organization and how it's standing.
And the
So
best
that's
thing
the
about that,
first.
Aquanetta, if I can just jump in, is that
Uh-huh.
the church should be getting in compliant anyway. So this is
Right.
something that
Correct.
you should be, and probably you're already in compliance, but just to
Absolutely.
make sure those things are in place.
Absolutely. Right. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is start where you are. If you have someone there that's doing some work, someone who's really good with your accounting, someone who's good, someone who maybe could be a couple of different people, two or three different people. Someone who's good with having conversations. You can certainly bring in an outfit or a company or consulting firm. You can certainly do that. But the first thing I would say is start informing your members and supporters. Educational sessions, whether you bring in a financial planner, someone to come in and speak or do a presentation, you bring in an estate planning attorney, you have other folks to join you for different events. You can have this as well. It's a service to your members. They need the information. They trust you. If they're not getting it from your organization, then where are they getting it from? Most people, a lot of people are not having these conversations at the dinner table, or they didn't have them growing up. So the church can provide this information. I would say compliance, information, education to your supporters. Those are critical pieces. Start where you are. Those volunteers, if they are in conversations with someone, perhaps someone has a home. They're really not sure what they're going to do with that home. It happens more often than we think. Perhaps the church is in a good position to accept that property. Maybe that person would be interested in even doing something called a retained life estate, where they literally give away the house, but they keep the keys during their lifetime. They can get a tax deduction, current tax deduction, and then the house can actually be transferred to the church. But again, you want to make sure you have your advisors on board with this because there are some things that need to be done. So get started with that compliance, inform your members and supporters, educate them, provide informational sessions. They need the
Those
information.
are great. Those are really good.
Yeah, and the third thing I will say, marketing probably sounds a little standoffish for some people in ministry work,
How
but
about promotional?
promotional, exactly. We're going to change that semantics a little, right? So we need to, again, let people know what's available. They're not always looking at this information that's coming through perhaps from some other organization that they're a member of, maybe a school or college or something, or even, as you mentioned, one of the humanitarian organizations that are out there. Maybe they're not reading all that, but if it's coming from your organization, the church, perhaps they'll take a closer look at it because it is coming from you and they trust your organization. So promoting what you're doing, if you're embarking on a campaign of giving, one of the first calls that I made when I started in fundraising, I called a woman, and one of the first things she said to me was, "Oh, I was wondering what took you so long to call me." Like, wow, I hope they're all this easy. And
Yeah.
she said, "I want to set up a charitable gift annuity." And she said, "I already have one with my church."
Oh,
So now
wow.
she wants a second one for
Hmm.
$100,000
Hmm.
each. So what I'm getting at is there are churches that are already doing this work.
Yeah,
If
that's
you're
great.
not involved in it, you're already really behind, but we can start where we are. So start where you are with what you have. Your volunteers are really going to be some of those people who could probably be those first folks to make those planned gifts, whether it's something through their will or a beneficiary designation that they could do. Oftentimes, those are some of the easiest, but they still want to coordinate what they're doing with their advisors, whether it's a financial planner
Always.
advisor, their
Hmm.
attorney. But the volunteers are going to be probably your biggest cheerleaders in this work to get you started.
And this is great information, Aquanetta. It's timely and it's great. One question I would one comment I would make is some of the terms you're speaking. I'm not sure if everyone knows what they mean, and so the point that I want to make is you don't need to know these terms. You just need, as Equineta said, you just need an advisor that can sort of help you through that. So if you're hearing some terms that you're not quite sure what they are, um, you don't need to know those. You just need to have someone on your side that you trust. It probably could be one of your persons on your finance committee. You'd be surprised that the people that you have in your pews,
Yeah.
probably 10 of them are doing something like this or somewhere around this, or they know someone that they trust that they can bring into the church's door. So don't feel like you need to know all the legalese around wills and trusts. And now I want to jump right into a poll just to see where you all are. And we want to know, has your organization implemented a planned giving program? So just click yes or no, or just about to, or whatever. And what type of gift have you received? And so I'm going to say For me, no. And NA. It always comes up on mine, even though I'm the administrator, as you said earlier. And so we'll keep going. And as you guys fill that out. So the next question I have is, what is the biggest challenge a church might face when trying to establish a planned giving program?
I would say the biggest challenge they would probably face a couple of different things. Oftentimes, leadership, those who are able to make the final decisions, to give the yes or no, the go or no on something. Oftentimes with planned giving, they tend to think if we focus on planned gifts that are going to come in at a later date, for the most part, there are some planned gifts that can come in currently today. If we focus on those future dollars, then that's going to do away with our current dollars that could come in. We don't want to do that. So they tend to shy away from planned giving. That can be a challenge to get leadership on board oftentimes. The answer to that is there's data, there's statistics out there that show when a person includes your organization in their estate plan, they've made you family, your family. That's a huge
No
commitment. They do
question.
not have
Yeah.
to do that. So what happens oftentimes, they actually increase their annual giving once they've made a planned gift, a future gift.
Okay. You
So
might want
there's
to say that
data.
again. You might want to
Yes.
say that again.
And so when leadership comes back, they give you this, no, no, planned gifts sound great, but not right now. Not for us right now. Make sure you let them know that there's data, there's research, there are numbers out there that literally show once a person includes your organization in their estate plan, one, they consider you now family. The other piece of that is their annual giving actually increases. So they've made a planned gift, which will come in later, which will be great. Usually those are much, much, much larger gifts. And then their annual gifts increase as well. So it's a win-win. They love your organization so much, they've made a commitment to give later, and they're going to increase their annual giving. So just remember that when you get that pushback from leadership. So I would say getting leadership's buy-in is
Yeah.
a challenge oftentimes for that very reason. And then the other part is just saying we don't have what we need to get started. And oftentimes it's just that effort to say we're going to put a one-liner in our newsletter that goes out or on a bulletin or some sort of
Or just even a thank you, even at the bottom of a letter that
correct.
says, remember us in your wills, you
Correct.
know?
That's simple. One liner. We don't want anything complicated. That one liner. If they have questions, have a contact person. And then from there, if you have no one on your staff to actually handle those things, you have other folks that can handle it for you. So a one liner is all you need, but getting leadership's buy-in can be a challenge. And then having that we don't have enough staff or we don't have the people on board, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. One of the challenges, I agree with you 100%. One of the challenges that we find when we're doing consulting with some of the churches is just the subject matter. They don't want to talk about
Yeah.
the subject matter. And I say to them, often, you're doing the families a service because a lot of times, many of us, I mean, you know this better than any of us on this call, probably, many of us get in the box without any will. A lot of us do. Our numbers are higher than just about any other race. And so what the church is doing is preparing their family to leave something for their family as well as the church. So you're preparing an individual or family, whereas if you don't say anything, the state is going to take over. So this is a service you're providing.
Yeah. Paul, to your point, I will say this, and those folks who are in churches certainly understand this better than most of us. I have family members that are pastors of churches. I've been involved in churches my entire life. So one of the things that has really pained me professionally as well as personally has been the lack of estate planning, the lack of putting a plan in place. And there are all sorts of scriptures surrounding we need counsel, we need plans, we need to steward these assets that we've been entrusted with. It's all there. It's all there. There's a lot to rely on there.
Mhm.
But the piece that you brought up, one, most Americans do not have an estate plan. They do not have a
Mhm.
will. And when it comes to people of color, the numbers are even lower. The fallout that happens, which is what I saw firsthand as an estate planning attorney during state administration, the end backside of things. The family dynamics get worse upon someone's
Yeah.
passing away. If there's no plan, it is even more chaotic. Even with a will, there can be some interesting
Yes.
scenarios. But that really sparked my interest in doing a lot of this work because, as I mentioned, that quote you said, once you know better, you do better. So I am really on a mission to share why it is so critical that we put an estate plan in place. We have to do better. The fallout that happens, the lack of generational wealth that we are
Oh,
currently dealing with.
yes.
There's a fantastic documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, if any of you have seen it. It's called Gaining Ground. It
I
is
haven't. I have to
produced
look for
by
that.
it's produced by John Deere and Al Roker's production company. And it talks about the land loss amongst African Americans and their families. It focuses on farmland in particular, since about the early 1900s, African American families owned somewhere around 16 million acres of farmland. And today
Hmm.
that's somewhere between 2 and 4 million.
Hmm.
16 million in the 1900s, down to
Wow.
about 4 million.
Wow.
Do the math on those acres times a dollar amount.
Yeah.
And that's generational wealth we've lost. And do you know one of the main reasons for that generational loss, Paul?
What is that?
A lack of a plan.
Exactly.
The property
Yeah.
didn't pass title
Yeah.
clearly. They can't get particular assistance or help that others are able to get, even if there's like a natural disaster.
Right.
Because the property, they cannot even get the property ownership to a particular person because it has been in families for decades and there's no clear title.
I see.
So estate planning is critical for generational wealth to help our families as well. So churches certainly play a role in this. So we have to, now that we know better, we certainly have to do better. It's really a charge.
It really is. And now everyone has been exposed on this. So we expect everyone.
Yes.
And again, I just want to reiterate to those listening, you don't have to know all these legalese because it's really can be off-putting
Mhm.
and intimidating, but you don't. You just really don't need to know all this stuff. You just need to be in compliance and be able to receive this stuff and just wrap yourself around individuals that you can trust that will help you with this. And that's
Yes.
really all you need. So don't be overwhelmed by the terms and the legalese because you just don't need to do that.
No, no. Paul, I know you probably have another question you want to go for, but I want to interject this
No,
really
no,
quick.
please.
I like to share this story about a woman who was born in
Perfect.
1927 in the Deep South, and she did janitorial work her entire life, backbreaking work in the school system. She worked for like a local lawyer there, but that's the sort of work that she did. And one of the things that really struck me about this particular woman was when she passed away, we found out that she had what's called a life estate. I mentioned it earlier for
Mhm.
her son. This woman had perhaps a seventh grade education. Now, do you think she knew when she went into the attorney's office to ask for a life estate? No.
No, of course
What
not.
she did was she went in there and she said, I want to make sure when something happens to me, I'm no longer around. My son will have this house to live in the rest of his life, period. Plain and simple. That was her language. The lawyer then knew what to do with that conversation. And that's what happened. So, as to your point, we're not expecting folks to understand all of the legalese, all of these different terms you're hearing here. Just know there are people that can help you through this. So I like to share that story because
That's a great
certainly she
story.
didn't know to call it a life estate.
That's a great story. Um, Uh, Alex, can you show the poll and let's sort of see, oh, so 100%. So we're in territory where it's needed.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that everybody is on this line, and we're going to provide some information at the end so you can reach out to Aquanetta if needed, as well as sending you some information to get you to move forward because it's just critical. It's absolutely critical.
Mhm.
So let me see one poll we have. Okay. Thank you. So let me ask this question. What are the key elements of building lasting relationships with planned giving donors?
Yeah, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that whole compliance, getting your church in order. If someone is to trust that their gift, their legacy gift, will be cared for well, we want to feel good about where we're placing our gifts, our hard-earned assets.
Yes.
That is going to be critical. So make sure you have things in order. Make sure you are doing your part. Stewarding folks for the long term is absolutely important. Making sure you're communicating if there are updates happening at the church. If you have even a society of folks who are making planned gifts, perhaps create a society. It could be
Yes.
named after either someone who has been at your church a long time, maybe one of the founders, or someone who's been there for years and years and years and provided wonderful service, or it could be the year, perhaps, of something significant at the church, the Society of 1948, or whatever it is significant at that location. Name a society where folks who are like-minded in the sense of they want to make a planned gift, that peer-to-peer interaction
Hmm.
is really important, and steward them well. So events, I know we're used to luncheons or legacy society events like luncheons at university,
Hmm.
perhaps hospital setting, but churches can certainly do the same thing.
Without
And
a doubt. And the
exactly.
food is better.
Um, exactly. Exactly. You're right. So, so those are important things, the long term, the building of these relationships. The trust is critical. But one of the things, and you mentioned it about churches, is that oftentimes most folks are there because they trust. They trust what they're hearing, what they're seeing. So that part for many folks in churches is already done. We
Hmm.
have to continue that. We want to continue building on that trust. But the relationship part, these planned gifts, they have a long lifespan.
Hmm.
So
They
folks can
do.
go and take you out of the
Yeah,
will, take you out of their beneficiary designation.
exactly.
They can remove you and put somebody else there
You know,
easily.
we had a joke, and I'm sure you've heard it. As soon as someone writes you in their
Yes,
will, they live another 15, 20 years. So,
exactly.
so
Right,
you're,
right. So, and so the thing is, people can make one of their last changes to a will up until their 80s.
yeah.
So there's a lot of stewardship there that needs to happen. Communication is key.
Oh,
Perhaps, letting them
critical.
know, thanking them. Thank yous are
Hmm.
huge. Don't just have somebody tell you they've included your organization in their will or a bequest or some sort of beneficiary designation, and you just brush it over and say, oh, yeah, yeah, that's nice. Send them a very nice thank you. Have a nice
Yes.
signature on there perhaps, or is it a holiday card of some sort? Keep them informed. Yeah, thank yous
Yeah.
are huge. They go a long way.
Without a doubt, it's seven thank yous
Yep.
annually,
Yes.
minimum.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
so
Yep.
yeah, so they certainly should be
Yeah.
thanked. So I want to, we have about 18 minutes or so. I want to make sure that we open up the chat to questions. So if there are any questions, direct questions that you would have of Aquanetta, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will ask those questions. One subject matter that you've sort of touched on, but I want to go back to just a little bit, is for me, I always felt in terms of planned giving, the lowest hanging fruit was from a church's point of view, is the finance committee. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is we roll out, we say, okay, everyone has agreed, we're gonna do a planned giving, program for the church. We're gonna start off small, like you said, even if it's just leave us in your will. We'll
Right.
start there. We've gotten all our ducks in a row in terms of our compliance. I feel like besides the pastor, I mean, including the pastor and associate pastor, I feel like we should be talking to the finance committee and the trustees and saying, okay, before we go to the congregants,
Mhm.
we all need to put the church in our will. And then when we go to the congregation, we can say the entire, finance committee and board of trustees or what has included or
Yes.
whatever high percentage in our will, and
Mhm.
now we're bringing this to you,
Yes. Yes.
and we can go from there.
Right, part of the Legacy Society. You already have some inaugural members of the Legacy Society. Those folks who are in the finance committee, um, those folks right up front, those trustees, they're already involved, they're engaged. And when it comes to playing gifts, you want to look for those folks who are absolutely engaged in your church. They're volunteering, they're spending time, they're doing all sorts of things there at your church. Those are the folks we want to look for. The other part would be their giving, a consistent giving history oftentimes, really the dollar amount not as significant as consistent giving. So consistent giving, engagement is huge. So that's a great place to start. And certainly those folks, trustees, the finance committee, they're already there. And then there are others who are really not on the radar, but they will see those messages like the one-liner that you send out. You may not ever know that they've actually included your organization until that gift comes in later on. And you go, oh, wow, I didn't realize he was going to leave that. He didn't tell us. So you will have those. And so that's another reason for something in that information going out mailers or something that you send out you have at church. It could be something that you put on even a table if you're having an event. Ask, have you considered including the church in your estate plan or in your will, whatever terminology
Mhm.
you want to use? Would you consider, or have you already included? And I'll tell you from a marketing or promoting standpoint, I've seen folks send that back and say, I have already included.
Yes.
And we had no idea.
Yeah.
So again, those simple one-liners, you'll find out
Yes.
a lot of helpful information. And oftentimes when you get that I've already included, it's a surprise,
Yes.
a
Yes.
pleasant surprise.
And it's a beautiful conversation,
Yes,
after
it is.
that, it,
It
it, it
is.
truly is.
It
Yeah.
truly is. If you are doing some sort of story or highlighting some sort of maybe the Legacy Society. Maybe you have someone who has confirmed their planned gift. You do a small write-up about that
Yeah.
particular person. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. They may not want to be recognized. So we want to
Mhm.
make sure that's the case as well. Then we do not do that. But
Right.
um, stories resonate with people. If someone at your church sees, Mr. Jones has made a planned gift, they may be incentivized to do something
Mhm.
similar. But if we don't share those stories, then no one will know.
Right.
And so they oftentimes a lot of people will think philanthropy or charitable giving is for someone else. It's not for me. Even though many folks in churches have been giving their entire lives, their parents have, their grandparents have, and that tithing, that top 10%, it's coming out of that household. I don't care what else is happening,
Exactly.
who've grown up that way. But they still do not see themselves as being charitable because it's just something that's so ingrained in them. So charitable giving is a part of many of us, our families, has been forever. Giving in certain communities, our communities of color, we've always had to depend on one another for things.
Mhm.
And so giving is not an issue. We have the heart for giving. What's missing, Paul, is a plan. There's no
Yes.
strategy. So the church can help with the information, the education to help folks put a plan in place for their giving. When we pass away, we tend to not have a plan, so that giving stops. Not because we necessarily want it to stop, we just didn't plan it. We don't have a will. So that's where the church can help. There are two events I want to highlight.
Please.
In April Financial Planning Awareness Month, find something there to celebrate with your members. Pick a date, look at what's happening on the calendars in April. Have someone come in to talk to your members about financial planning. Financial planning is one part of it. Estate planning certainly is included in one's financial planning. To be financially well, their well-being includes estate planning. In October, let me back up. August is National Make a Will Month. That's another month that you could put just a blurb, 1 or 2 sentences in something that you are promoting or sending out. In October, this is one of my favorite weeks, aside from my birthday week, but October, the third week in October, every third week in October since 2008 has been set aside by Congress by a resolution that was signed since 2008. It's National Estate Planning Awareness Week, every third week in October. So it's not a lightweight week. No one made this up and just kind of put it out there. It was put in place to help Americans understand the importance of financial wellness and how estate planning plays a role in that. So this, 2025, it's October the 20th through October the 26th. October 20th through October 26th is National Estate Planning Awareness Week. So churches, you're on alert.
Mm-hmm.
Do something during that week. There are attorneys in your area that would love to do a presentation on estate planning during that week. I've done them. I will do it again in October 2025. We did a presentation at a church in Maryland in October, this past October. So that's a good week for information. So if we're not informing our folks about these different options for their giving, how will they know? There are many, many giving opportunities out there, but we just have to inform folks. One more thing that I will point out, of course, I talked a little bit about real estate. There are some real estate gifts that a lot of people may be interested in. They just are unaware of it. Individual retirement accounts, those folks who are in your church, if you have folks who are around age 70 and a half, that is a significant year for their IRA, their individual retirement accounts. They can make a gift directly from their IRA account. It cannot go to them to get the tax benefits, maximize the tax benefits. If they have it go directly from their IRA administrator over to the church or their nonprofit of choice, that can go to you, the charity, without being a taxable amount for your member. It has to come from a traditional IRA account. They'll know if they have one. If not, they can certainly ask their advisors. The other part to that, and I've seen this one work, is when a person turns 73 years of age, if they have an individual retirement account, and they're giving to your church anyway, right? They're giving anyway. So now the government says when they turn 73, hey, you've had your retirement account open for decades, tax-free. That money has to come out, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones. It's coming out. I don't care if you need it or not. I don't care how wealthy you are. You're
Mm-hmm.
getting your required minimum distribution. It's called an RMD. So what Mr. Jones can do is say to his advisor, hey, IRA advisor, I give to my church, but I know I have to take my RMD, but I don't want to get it to come to my bank account because then it'll be taxable income for me. Let's just have it go straight from you, my IRA administrator, over to my church. You send
Mm-hmm.
it to them. Don't let it touch my bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Send it to your church. Now your member has just made their gift. They've been giving anyway, but now they're making it with dollars that they're not going to be taxed on. It's really a win-win.
That's
I've seen
wonderful.
it work,
Yeah.
but a lot of our folks are unaware that that's even an option. So they take their RMD, it's now taxable income to them, and then they give to your church. So they have not maximized their tax benefits. It's available to them. We give from the heart for the most part, but we
Right.
also can utilize those things that are available to us, like tax benefits, if we are aware of them. So churches, that's where we come in. We have to provide information. And there are folks that can help you do this.
Yeah, and I'm going to at the end of this, we're gonna, put it in a synopsis and be able to send that out an overview. But I'm gonna count how many times you said information, and I'll let you know what that is because that's important. It's absolutely
Yeah.
important, and you're dead on. And I wanna ask you, what else would you like to tell the individuals that are here right now that we didn't cover?
I would say that you have people already that you're working with that are your members, that are your supporters, people that you know that would love to make a gift, a planned gift. Oftentimes, these are going to be some of the largest gifts that they can make. During their lifetime, they certainly can give some, but those planned gifts will be much larger. So make sure that we're giving them that, again, information. We have to, it's critical. I've been in these spaces. I know there's a lack of it. And this is part of my mission that I am committed to. So we have to get out in front of these folks with what's available to them. If we do not, where are they going to get the info from?
They're
It's
not.
just you. Exactly. So they want to give. We just want to make sure they have, I call it a menu. We want to make sure they have things that they can look at and pick and choose from so they know what's available to them. It's all about informing folks, educating folks. We didn't all have these conversations at the dinner table or the breakfast table with our families. So it's time that we now start sharing this information. Now that we know better, we do better.
Exactly. I love that. So this is maybe a little bit of a recap, but if I were new to plan giving, not that I know enough to just create havoc, but if I were new to plan giving, like many of the people that are listening and watching right now, and this might be, as I said, a little bit of review. What would you say they should do tomorrow? What are the next 5 things, perhaps,
Mhm.
that people listening right now should do tomorrow to start this moving forward?
I would say put this on your agenda, your calendar, your next event, those folks you know you need to talk to, like your core group, your leadership group, those folks you know you need to have these conversations with first. You need their buy-in. You need to get their thoughts on plan giving, starting something very small in your organization. That would be step one. Work through that, get their buy-in. Figure out what your resources look like. Do you have enough to bring in someone of counsel to help you with your plan giving goals or what you would like to see happen? Um, there are people that do this sort of work. It can have maybe an hourly scenario involved, or it could be something different. Figure out what you can do, what you can afford to do right now, but it has to start. So have those first initial conversations if that goes forward right now. And I would say if for some reason you get pushed back, table it for a little while, bring it back up again. It's not over. It sometimes is a repeated conversation. So one, have those conversations with those folks that have to have buy-in. Two, from that point on, get started with who will you have in this circle of your plan giving folks that will help you.
And a lot of times I'll say lawyers that you have at your that are congregants,
Mm-hmm.
they may not be in that field, but they will know somebody that will do it
Yes.
pro bono for you. It
Yes.
will be a lot of it is pro bono.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of work that happens this way because people are so driven in this work because we've seen
Right.
some of the things that can happen when there's a lack of a plan. So a lot of us are really geared towards helping as much as we can to get things going. So one, those leadership meetings. Two, of course, figure out who that core group will be to work with you to get this going. Um, Start small. The one liners, just ask someone, have you included our organization in your plans? That simple. If they said yes, well, you want to hear obviously what that looks like, what that means. Um, be trustworthy. Of course, the confidentiality piece, some people in this case, it's a tough conversation. Sometimes they don't want the recognition. We need to be
Right,
mindful and respectful of that as well, and figure out how you will steward these people. That needs to be on
right,
the front of your planning
right.
because it's so critical. The thank yous. What will you do to thank these people? If you're asking
Hmm.
them and they say yes, you need to be ready with a letter or something that will go out to thank them. Is it
Right.
some trinket? Is it a photo or a historical photo of your building or something in that regard? What will you thank them with? So I would say that promoting, asking that question, having that thank you stewardship piece in line, and then just keep going. These conversations
Yeah.
are
Fifth,
needed
I'd say have a
conversations.
goal, have a
Yes.
goal. So in other words, increase it
Hmm.
10% next year,
Yeah.
something like that. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say this really quickly. There's a story about an organization that hired a plan giving officer. The plan giving officer stayed around for maybe 4 or 5 years. And the organization said, oh, no, we're really not seeing as much traction with plan gifts as we would like. We're going to get rid of your position. They got rid of that person's position. Of course, lo and behold, a couple of years later, all these plan gifts started to come into the organization. But that was the work that that
Yeah.
person had done because they're not easy gifts to happen quickly for most people. And especially when you're talking about people who still are kind of following slowly behind on
Yeah.
the information piece already. So it is a process. Just stay the course. It will certainly be well worth it.
I agree 100%. And it's a long tail, as you're saying. And so I would add, when they let that person go, guess what? Those gifts are going to stop.
Yes, exactly. Yes. They'll
You
see
know,
an uptick and then it's going to come back.
exactly. It's going to drop off because that work is just like sowing in the seed in the garden.
Exactly.
It
Yep.
takes time. It's like good wine. Um, this has been fantastic, Aquanetta. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off? Or are there any questions? We didn't get any questions in the chat. This is your last chance to ask a question or two. Aquanetta, was there anything else you wanted to cover? And then before I give you the baton, also, what is there a document that you can send us that we can send to the participants that would help them set up their planned giving? As we saw, none of them have anything set up now, like maybe a checklist or something.
Yes, I will certainly get information out to you, Paul, and you can distribute that. But it will be a helpful list of really a recap of what we talked about here today.
Perfect.
And then, of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. I'll have my contact information available. But get started today.
Yes,
That's my advice. Get started today.
I would agree. And then, Aquanetta, did you want us, when we send it out, did you want us to put your contact information on the document, or how did you want us to do that? Because I want the people to be able to reach you if you want
Yes,
that.
yes, I will. That would be perfect. And I'll make sure when I get that over to you, Paul, it'll be
Hmm.
clear, the contact info. And so if people
Perfect.
have a question, they can certainly reach out.
Well, thank you. This has been fantastic. You know, I don't know if people realize the jewels and treasures that you've given out here, and if they take them and plant these seeds, you know, 4 or 5 years down the road, they're going to be saying, you know what? I went to this lunch and learned, and look at this now.
Yes,
Look at this. Look at what's.
yes,
Please, everyone on this call, do what she said. Get started with planned giving. It's a slow,
mhm,
gentle push, but when the fruits start coming in, you'll
yep,
be looking around and saying, "What is happening?" And
yes,
it'll change everything, and it'll be the most beautiful transfer of wealth within your community that you've ever seen. And you'll be able to tell other churches what you're doing. They'll be able to do it, and we can stop Black churches from closing and move
yep.
forward and change the way we live, our communities live. So, Aquanetta, I can't thank you enough. This has been fantastic. I'll be reaching out to you a little bit later on to get some more information and perhaps try to find some other ways that we can connect. But this has been fantastic.
Sounds great.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Paul, for the opportunity.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. We will see you the second week of January on Wednesday. And I believe it's on Oh, it's on AI grant writing. So we'll see you the second week of Wednesday in January. Thank you all so much. Be well and have a wonderful Christmas.